Right, what are we doing? Well, I've just pulled off the lane here and we're going to go for a ride on the Matchless. This lane is part of Cycle Route 1, which is one of my favourite little routes that I pass here, and so I've stopped here. I know some of the denizens of this settlement and they're very friendly, so they won't mind me starting here. And it's a short route. It's about 14.7 miles, and it reproduces one of the little sorts of more like the winter rides I do, or an evening ride on the bicycle, or we do it on the tandem. And but we're doing it on this, A, because it's quicker, and B, it's a bit more interesting, I hope. Right, over top dead centre, swinging kick, and we're off. As I say, I know a few people here and they don't mind old thumping motorbikes stopping occasionally, so let's be off. Now, this route is a circle and therefore can be done either clockwise or anti-clockwise. So I'm just trying to get myself comfortable here. But we're doing it anti-clockwise today, which means we're going to Beccles first. It's got a lovely morning for it. Not sure if it will last. We've had a couple of really lovely days in the middle of a really horrible few months with so much rain. Probably started in November, I think. And although it was warm all the way through the winter, wasn't it? So much rain. And then spring came and the rain came and went and came and went and came and went, but it also brought an absolutely freezing northerly wind with it. And so up until 2 days ago it was so cold, but now we've got more, I don't know, 10 degrees, 11, 12 maybe. It's very pleasant. Right, let's settle into it. The bike is more or less warmed up. So, where are we going? This ride is into Beccles, a loop out of Beccles, and then through the villages of Gillingham, Galveston, Ellingham, into Bungay, and Bungay sort of up the hill and back to where I started. And I can now stop back there and switch things off. It's a nice convenient stopping place off the lanes where I can fiddle with the video and things, because I'm not an expert yet with using this action camera. In fact, I'm very far from an expert of using this action camera. So far I've done several videos, and every one I've thought, no, that doesn't work, or I've discovered I'm not pointing it at the right thing, or I'm jerking my head about too much, because the camera's actually mounted to the chin of this full face helmet on a proper mount. What I have discovered is it's got wind suppression. Well, I've turned on the wind suppression and the anti-shake, and that works really well, because I'm on a rigid framed motorcycle, and so I do bounce around a bit. Right, this is we're almost straight into Beccles, just going past the big school here on the right. It's mayhem along here at 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock with all the buses and the kids coming out and parents fighting for a car parking space. Try and avoid the bigger holes in the road. Yeah, so I hope I'm pointing it at the right thing. One of the things I think I do is I shake my head about too much every time I look in a mirror. So it makes anybody watching this a little bit seasick maybe. But the mirrors are bar end mirrors, and so I have to sort of rather turn my head a lot. Oh, that was nice and convenient that I didn't have to stop there. Just coming past Beccles Museum here, this beautiful old building. It's from the 1500s. There's lots of lovely buildings here in Beccles. 17th, 18th century, some earlier. You can see the church in the distance, and down there is the river. Right. There's the church in front, rather truncated as you can see. It hasn't got a spire. Apparently they ran out of money. St. Michael's it's called, this church. And some interesting facts about St. Michael's. Right, well, the tower is not connected to the church, because on the other side here is a sort of cliff down to the river, and if they'd put the tower where it should go on a Christian church, it would have been right on the edge of that cliff, and they thought the weight of the tower would simply collapse the whole lot down into the river, so that made sense not to do that. So they built it separately and just stuck it on its own. So more lovely buildings down here. A lot of these places have all got riverside frontage. This is called Northgate. Beccles roads are all, well, a lot of them are gates. Right, we're about to go over the border into Norfolk, over the Waveney. There's the Waveney River, looking really smart this morning. Very calm. There's no wind this morning, which is nice. And we're now going across Gillingham Dam, which cuts across these floodplains here. You come in the winter and it's almost like riding through the middle of a lake either side. If there's been a lot of rain and the rivers are high. Anyway, some more geeky facts about St. Michael's Church in Beccles. Back in, I don't quite know the date, 1750 something, a Norfolk minister married a woman called Catherine Suckling in that church, and they went on to have a few children, one of them they called Horatio, because Catherine Suckling had married a certain Reverend Nelson in that church. The Sucklings are actually from a village quite near to Beccles called Barsham, and I think that family is still in that area. Anyway, we've just cut off a lane. This is a little loop that just adds about a quarter of a mile to the run, and I do it because there's a hill on it, and you don't get a lot of practice on hills in Suffolk. This is practice on the bicycle, not on the motorcycle, of course, because the motorcycle doesn't care. Wave at the little kiddies out in the sunshine. Are you staying there? I think you are. Thank you. Part of the reason for doing this video, or I might do several videos actually, is to just record these cycle rides that I do so often, and I love them. I really do love them. But this might sound a bit gloomy, but one day I won't be able to do them. Well, I'm hoping I'm living to a great age, and it will be nice to sit and perhaps watch the countryside go past on the TV, sat there with a blanket round my knee and a cup of tea and some shortbread biscuits, no doubt, and be able to go, oh, I remember that. Right, one of the you can probably see one of the criteria when you ride these roads is keeping away from the moss, grass and loose gravel down the middle, and just trying to see around every bend in case you're about to be confronted by an enormous tractor or an Ocado delivery van. Right, there's a little loop. We're just coming back down to the road that we turned off about 2 minutes ago. Spring's really come on now. It's fantastic. The trees, just in the space of a fortnight, they've all started to come into leaf, and the hedgerows looking fat and bright green already. And this little bit of warmth will really bring things on. Right, we'll stick to 30, which is very easy on a bike like this. You never feel the need to rush. One thing I have discovered on this is that the microphone, which is inside the helmet, barely picks up the sound of the engine at all, and yet I can hear it perfectly well. It's actually quite loud, although obviously a 350cc single cylinder bike, it's a very soft thud, but the microphone barely picks it up. Is that a good thing? I don't know, probably is. Anyway, we're now in a little village called Gelderston. There's a pub here. Oh, it looks like they've got a nice little library there for swapping books. And a nice pub called the Wherry, which gives you a clue that wherries did stop here. The river was locked, and we'll be going past where the Lock's Inn is, and so the water could be kept high so boats could get all the way up to Bungay. I'm just going slowly along here, because I'm very interested in sort of industrial history. I'm not a great railway enthusiast, but I find them very interesting, particularly disused railways. And there is Geldeston Station, and the river is down there, and the railway went right down into Beccles that way. And the Locks Inn is down there. Oh, I've just seen a hare go down that road. The Locks Inn is a fantastic pub. It's right on the river. In fact, you can actually get to it by boat. And my wife and I, we've done it on a kayak a few times. Tie up, have a pint, something to eat. Very popular place in the summer, but it was on there. It's had its ups and downs. In the winter time it has real problems because it's surrounded by marshes, and the floods, you know, cut it off basically. It can be nearly underwater, and this year it had to be closed for quite a long while because of the sheer amount of flooding. So to run a business there is tricky, but it's now a community pub. Some time ago it was bought. The previous owners had given up on it, and rather than lose it, people got together because it was so popular, so much part of this part of Norfolk, that people got together and you could buy shares. In fact, we bought a very small number of shares because we're fond of the place. And lots of volunteers got involved. Brickwork, electrics, roofing, painting. Fantastic amount of work. There's this fella's just pulled out, unfortunately, but there's gives me the opportunity. There is a large sort of grain store there with grain dryers, and these fellows are backwards and forwards, but it does mean this road here is actually really sort of, it doesn't look at it, it looks really smooth, but it's ridged, and it's like riding over a rib cage. Anyway, so the Locks Inn is now open and up and running, and once again hugely popular. Right, we're coming into the village of Ellingham now. This fella will be going round the bend and straight on. I do Ellingham Church is here, just behind me there. But we're going over that railway line. That's it, exactly the same railway line that joined Beccles to Tivetshaw. Tivetshaw is where the railway line joined the main line. Down there was the track bed, and that bridge we've just gone over, it doesn't look much, but the brickwork underneath is incredibly complicated and flamboyant. And here is another station. Lovely architecture. He's got the gates there, not sure they're the originals. Bit nosy, I know, but the platform is still in their garden there. Super place. That was one of a whole string of stations between Beccles and Tivetshaw. Earsham, Harleston. I can't remember all the other little ones. Right, fantastic shiplap building there. That's Ellingham Mill. And there's the mill stream coming out underneath. A few weeks ago, I know I keep banging on about the rain, but it was catastrophic this year. That wall over there, you literally couldn't see it. The river was right up onto the grass over there, and there's some wagtails there, 3 of them, and it doesn't get up to that little cottage there, but it does completely cover that landing stage, and right down there, that's where it joins the main river down there. This mill here, a couple of years ago, there were some guys painting it. Crikey, that was a job. I think they might have been snowblind by the time they'd finished it. There's a lovely little cut off that bridge there. Later on in the year, there's so many flowers around there. It actually looks like some sort of Monet or Manet or Impressionist painting with the river and all the colourful flowers. Right, we're about to go across the border again, back into Suffolk, because this is the main part of the Waveney. There's a weir, this is a weir, and that's the direction towards Bungay. Now you might not have heard that, but instead of going down, I've done a sort of Suzuki Matchless crossover there, and instead of going down a gear, I went up a gear, and so pulled away in fourth. I'll just stand off the saddle for a bit because there's a lot of tree roots come out the under the tarmac here, and makes it a bit jarring on the spine if you're not. Well, they can catch you out if you don't see the things. And despite the springs in the saddle, it can give you a right jarring. Right, turn onto another little narrow lane. Well, I'm talking about the motorcycle, and maybe I should talk a bit more about what it is I'm riding. This is a 1950 G3l Matchless, rigid frame, famous telehydraulic forks, and it's not an uncommon bike even today. I think they're particularly attractive, having the rigid frame. I think it's a very, very attractive bike. Obviously 350cc single of that era develops maybe 16 horsepower, so never was a racer even in its day. But those who know about these things will know that the G3l Matchless was one of, possibly arguably the best of the War Department dispatch riders' bikes during the Second World War. And the story is that the I don't know if it would be the Ministry of Supply, it wouldn't be the War Department, whoever decides these things, got people to put forward, got manufacturers to put forward potential models of the late 1930s, and probably as late as 1939, for an army dispatch rider's bike. Matchless put a version of this forward, Triumph put one forward, and they picked the Triumph, and Triumph went into production. But in 1940 their factory was bombed and their production was curtailed, so they immediately went back to Matchless and started producing the G3l, almost identical to this bike, almost identical. There are some, well, the wartime differences like canvas grips and no chrome and strange headlamps and that sort of thing. Differences in the the shape of the exhaust pipe, so it gave a bit more ground clearance. But other than that, it's identical to what I'm riding here. Pulling off the road, we're just coming into Beccles now, but we cut off before Beccles, and they produced 80,000 for the army, and they found their way practically everywhere on the planet. Obviously all the way through Europe, loads of them in Britain doing dispatch duties, Far East, Mediterranean, the desert, and they still turn up. This model, and of course the famous BSA, which was the more common one, the BSA M20, which was a 500cc side valve machine, so it was a bit more of a slow coach. The Matchless is quite lively, handles nicely, it can be quite a lively bike in comparison to the M20, which had girder forks still. That BSA was still earlier technology in the forks. So although they were incredibly rugged and there were more of them, I don't know, I'm not sure of the figures, it might be something like 120,000 of the things, maybe more. I'm doing a slight deviation there. The lane that side there has just been re-gravelled, and it's okay, but it's so thick, the gravel at the moment, because it's all new and hasn't gone sinking into the tarmac quite yet, but it's like riding on marbles. And it doesn't matter the fact that it's in fact actually on this bike it seemed better than on the Suzuki. I don't know why. Suzuki's got a much better section rear tyre and of course proper suspension, but it seemed to be more skittish on the it's like riding on marbles, so we'll avoid that. But this is an alternative that I cycle around. Usually I'll be coming the other way, to be honest, because I tend to go past the start where we started today in the other direction. That's cycle route 1 for those who are interested in cycling. A lot of rape around this year. You can always tell when your nose starts prickling. That's a field of what looks like wheat or barley. That sign there is there's a bit of a controversy going on at the moment. They're proposing a very large solar farm nearby, and there's a lot of for and against, mostly against, I have to say. I'm not sure where I stand on it. I hate the idea of covering up farmland with solar panels. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me when we always talking about food security. And I don't think it's the best farmland in the country, but it's certainly not the worst. But at the same time, I'm a big advocate of solar power. All that energy from the sun that's pouring down on us, even on a cloudy day. And one of the arguments against this development is that it's going to destroy the natural habitats. Well, I'm not even persuaded by that particular argument, because farmers' fields these days are just industrial monocultures, aren't they? So they're hardly fantastic wildlife habitats. Whereas maybe if you were planning it right, the gaps between the solar panels, you could have lots of wildflowers, you could only cut it a few times a year, you might encourage different birds, mammals, who knows. But the main argument against it is just covering up food growing land. When we've got houses being built everywhere, and warehouses and distribution units with massive roofs and not a solar panel to be seen, all that wasted acreage, and that's simply wrong to me. We should be putting it on roofs. Now the argument, I put that argument to one of the guys who was from the company doing the development, or hoping to do the development, and he said, yeah, that's all well and good, and it's right, but the problem is, even if we did that, we still wouldn't generate enough. So I don't know, nothing's simple, is it? Right, last little tiny hill. Doesn't look like a climb on the video, I'm sure, but it tends to make my lungs and legs work a little bit. We're coming up onto the commons. This is a village called Ilkeshaw St Andrew, and it's got a lot of common land all the way around it, which is quite unusual nowadays, isn't it? Occasionally you'll get a sheep on here and the odd horse. See, all of this, either side of the lane, is common. You do some nice walks around here. This bit here, there's a footpath right across the middle of it. I don't know if you can see, but it's a bit misleading because it's although it's like up high, it's really swampy. You do need your wellies. Ideal sort of motorcycle for these, because you can't tear along. You do have to think about your braking, because you haven't got modern braking, of course. It's not terrible braking on this bike, but it's definitely not a patch on having a couple of disc brakes. So thinking ahead is the name of the game. Quiet these lanes are. What is it? It's Tuesday. It's a Tuesday morning. Very quiet lanes. Basically, they just cut between the various villages, and you can ride them endlessly. I'll do some other videos, maybe on the Suzuki, and some of the longer bicycle rides. I quite like this idea of reproducing the rides I do on the bicycle. I did try it by doing it on the bike, but of course they are rather long, the videos. I mean, this will be long enough. And when you're out, I don't know, there's a nice ride I do which is about 32 to 35 miles long, and that takes me a good 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours of watching scenery go past at an average speed of about 10 or 11 miles an hour. It's exactly riveting. I like this road. It's probably the widest road that I ever cycle along, actually. I'm trying to get used to moving my head slowly about, but you can't really do sort of camera work and looking where you're going. This Smith speedometer is super accurate now. A local guy repaired it for me, and I checked it against the GPS app I've got on my phone, and it was absolutely spot on. So we're only doing 40 miles an hour along here, plenty fast enough. I might have gone a little bit quicker had that guy not been in front of me. Well, here's the village we started in, so I shall pull in on that same little cut off. And that is the loop I do, albeit the loop I do on either my solo or on our tandem. Right, I'll stop back where we started in this nice little quiet loop. And how do you stop one? Well, this will probably stop itself, but there's the decompressor. And then the next thing to do is to stop the video. Now theoretically pressing that button does it, but I have noticed it doesn't seem to work. It starts it, but I'm not sure I'm doing it right. It doesn't seem to stop it. Anyway, thank you for coming along for the ride, and bye bye.